Hi everyone, my name is Mark, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. Mary Katherine Higdon was born in 1994 and was a happy child who was always running around, laughing and having a good time. She was known for her sense of humor and would often bring laughter to the room with her witty remarks and impersonations. One of her favorite pastimes was walking around town with her pet frog, which she would proudly parade on a shoestring. Her love for nature and animals was evident from an early age, and she spent countless hours exploring the outdoors and observing the beauty of nature. In addition to being entertaining, Mary had a passion for performing. She often put on plays for her family, captivating everyone with her creativity and imagination. Her family thought Mary was so talented and had a bright future. Growing up, Mary was exposed to guns and became a passionate enthusiast. She learned to respect and handle firearms responsibly, appreciating their power and potential. Mary's love for guns grew as she honed her skills and became a skilled marksman. While in high school, Mary Katherine met the love of her life, Steven Freeman. Steven was born on January 1, 1995 in Griffin, Georgia, and was raised alongside his parents and brother. Growing up, Steven was close with his family and described as a happy child with many friends. His friends described Steven as a laid-back and chill guy who was always kind and helpful. They said that he truly loved and cared for everyone around him. One of Steven's favorite things to do was to spend time outdoors in nature. Even though Steven was close with his parents, he shared an especially strong bond with his mother. When Steven's mother graduated college after returning to school as an adult, he wrote her a heartfelt letter expressing his admiration for her accomplishments. In the letter, Steven wrote how he looked up to her every day and loved her to the moon and back. Steven acknowledged the hard work and determination she had demonstrated during her 2 years working towards her degree. His admiration for his mother was evident in his words, and he expressed his gratitude for the role she played in his life. After meeting in high school, Mary Katherine and Steven quickly formed a deep connection and were inseparable. What brought them together was their shared love of the outdoors. Whether hiking, camping, fishing, or hunting, the two of them thoroughly enjoyed spending time in nature. Mary Katherine and Steven's love for the outdoors served as the foundation of their strong relationship. Eventually, Mary Katherine and Steven graduated from high school, marking the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. As high school sweethearts, they decided to embark on the next phase of their relationship by moving together in a house in Griffin, Georgia. Mary Katherine and Steven were thrilled about living in their own space. Steven's mother looked at Mary Katherine as more than just her son's girlfriend. She genuinely regarded her as a daughter and embraced her into their family with open arms. Mary Katherine and Steven visited Steven's parents' house every Sunday to have a big family dinner. This tradition brought everyone closer and solidified Mary Katherine's place within the family. Furthermore, Steven's friends also began to warm up to Mary Katherine. Initially, they were hesitant about the couple's relationship, but as they spent more time together, they couldn't help but notice how well-suited they were. They appreciated how Mary Katherine brought happiness and joy into Steven's life and admired her love for the outdoors. Steven worked as a metal worker and repaired roofs, while Mary Katherine was a part-time teacher's assistant at a preschool, St. George's Episcopal School, in Milner, Georgia. In addition to working at the school, Mary Katherine was employed at a sporting goods store where she sold guns. One of Steven's best friends, Thomas Skinner, worked with Mary Katherine at the sporting goods shop. While working at the sporting goods store, Mary Katherine had the opportunity to learn about basic gun safety. This information included learning to hold, load, and shoot a gun. Like Mary Katherine, Steven loved firearms. Steven owned several shotguns and rifles, which he enjoyed using for hunting and target practice. He also kept a Glock 42 in the home for protection. By the summer of 2018, Mary Katherine and Steven had been together for 7 years and were still living in their apartment in Griffin, Georgia. However, their high school sweethearts' happily ever after came to an end on the night of August 1st, when Mary Katherine made a harrowing phone call to 911. When the dispatcher answered, Mary Katherine screamed, "I accidentally just shot my boyfriend!" Within minutes, The police arrived at Mary Katherine and Steven's apartment and found Mary Katherine a wreck. Mary Katherine, in a state of hysteria, was crying and hyperventilating as she knelt over Steven's lifeless body. She screamed, "I cannot lose him! I cannot lose him!" over and over again, her voice filled with anguish and despair. As the police gently guided Mary Katherine away from Steven's body, they were able to get a better look at his condition. They discovered that he had been shot in the chest, but thankfully, he was still alive. In a desperate effort to save his life, an ambulance was called to transport Steven to the nearest hospital. Upon arrival at the emergency room, skilled doctors began administering life-saving measures. However, despite the best efforts of the medical staff, Steven's condition continued to deteriorate. The severity of his injury proved impossible, and he ultimately passed away due to the injuries sustained. Mary Katherine went with the police to the police department for a formal interview after Steven was transported to the hospital. She started by explaining the events of the night that ended in her shooting Steven accidentally. According to Mary Katherine, she was handing Steven the gun because he usually put it on the side of his bed at night for safety. However, Mary Katherine stated that they never kept a bullet in the chamber of the guns in the house. During Mary Katherine's interview, the police were sure they smelt alcohol on her breath. As the police continued to question Mary Katherine, her story about her shooting Steven changed. Instead of handing the gun to Steven, she now said that she tossed the firearm to him. The police officers interviewing Mary Katherine were suspicious of her story. They knew that a gun would not randomly go off by being tossed, and someone needed to pull the trigger. Additionally, the sight of Steven's gunshot wound led them to believe that Mary Katherine must have been directly pointing the gun at him for the bullet to strike where it did. Eventually, during her interview, Mary Katherine said, "I did it out of anger." However, even though the police were recording the interview with Mary Katherine, there was nothing but feedback during the part when she said she shot Steven out of anger. Still, even without that key piece of the recording, the police felt they had found enough forensic evidence to convince them Mary Katherine intentionally shot her boyfriend, Steven. At Mary Katherine and Steven's apartment, the police found evidence that indicated there had been a heated argument between the couple before Steven was shot. Scattered food throughout the house clearly showed that an altercation had occurred. Additionally, it was discovered that officers had been called to Mary Katherine and Steven's house 5 times within the last year due to domestic disputes. Furthermore, the police found evidence proving that the gun used to shoot Steven was loaded on the night of the incident. Despite Mary Katherine's claims to the contrary, the police discovered traces of cooking grease on both the gun and the magazine. This discovery led the police to the conclusion that Mary Katherine, who was preparing dinner at the time, had loaded the weapon. After Mary Katherine shot Steven, the police conducted interviews with his friends to gather information about their relationship. Steven's friends stated that the relationship between Mary Katherine and him was characterized by toxicity and constant arguing. They revealed that the couple often engaged in heated confrontations. Steven's friends described Mary Katherine as possessive and verbally abusive towards him. They said that she exhibited signs of mental instability, which amplified the tension in their relationship. Whenever Steven left their apartment to seek space away from Mary Katherine, she would relentlessly text and call him, to the point he had to block her. One of the friends disclosed that Steven confided in him that Mary Katherine had pulled a firearm on him at least 3 times in the past. However, Steven refrained from reporting these incidents to the police, fearing that Mary Katherine would get in trouble. Steven's friend emphasized that Steven's primary concern was ensuring Mary Katherine's well-being, even in the face of his safety. When Steven's friends heard that Mary Katherine accidentally shot Steven, they found that hard to believe because they knew she had extensive knowledge on how to handle a firearm. 3 months before Mary Katherine shot Steven texted a friend saying that Mary Katherine was running around outside, screaming at the top of her lungs, and attempting to shoot him and herself. The following month, Steven informed another friend that although Mary Katherine had pointed a gun at him in the past, the most recent time, she had a look in her eyes that made him fear that she would actually go through with it. Steven's friends reported to the police that by July 2018, he was tired of Mary Katherine's behavior and had been contemplating leaving her after 7 years. His plan was to move to a different town while she was out one day without informing her. He feared what might happen if she knew he was leaving her. Police discovered a series of text messages from July 30th, 2018, 2 days before Mary Katherine fatally shot Steven. The first text message sent by Steven to Mary Katherine on July 30th read, "Good morning, beautiful. Don't forget." Mary Katherine responded by saying, "Have a great day." Steven then replied, "You too, love you." However, the police also discovered that the following night, July 31st, Steven spent the evening at a friend's house and did not return Mary Katherine's texts or calls because the couple was fighting. On the night of the shooting, August 1st, Mary Katherine was at home preparing dinner, but Steven was not there. She reached out to Steven's mother, who informed her that Steven was with his friend. Angry at Steven, Mary Katherine started driving to his friend's. She knew where he was, and she wanted to confront him. As she drove, she spotted Steven sitting in the passenger seat of his friend's truck. Mary Katherine pulled alongside Steven's friend and started to yell at Steven. Steven tried calming Mary Katherine down, assuring her he was on his way home. Even though Steven's friend said Mary Katherine had pointed a gun at him on several occasions, Mary Katherine adamantly denied these allegations. She insisted that she never pulled a gun on Steven. However, Mary Katherine did admit to having threatened to take her own life a few times with a gun. Steven's mother later shared her thoughts in an interview, explaining that she believes one of the main reasons why Steven stayed with Mary Katherine for so long was because she was constantly threatening to take her life. He was terrified that she might follow through on these threats if he left Mary Katherine. According to Mary Katherine, on the night of the incident that led to Steven's shooting, it was Steven who escalated the situation and became violent. She claimed that he threw the dinner she had prepared with so much effort in her face. Mary Katherine stated that she only picked up the gun as a means of self-defense and scared Steven away as she wanted him to leave the apartment. However, she claimed that Steven lunged at her, which frightened her. And as she backed away, the next thing she knew, Steven was bleeding from the chest. At the time of Steven's shooting, Mary Katherine claimed she did not disclose this version of events to the police because she was embarrassed to admit that Steven had a history of violence toward her. Mary Katherine claimed Steven had hit her in the past and was controlling. She said he once kicked her out of bed with such force she struck her head on the doorframe. However, Steven's friends had a different opinion on Mary Katherine and Steven's relationship. They claimed they witnessed Mary Katherine hitting Steven, saying she slapped him hard in the face. On the other hand, Mary Katherine's sister had a different opinion on their relationship. She said she saw bruises on Mary Katherine's arm 2 weeks before Steven was shot. According to Mary Katherine's sister, she pulled Mary Katherine aside and asked her what happened, and Mary Katherine said that Steven had grabbed her. After the police concluded Steven's death was a murder, they charged Mary Katherine with murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The state offered Mary Katherine a plea deal, stating that if she pleaded guilty, she would receive a life prison sentence with the possibility of parole. However, despite the appeal of this deal, Mary Katherine ultimately turned down the offer and decided to go to trial, where she would plead her innocence. She pleaded not guilty to the charges against her, arguing that she shot Steven in self-defense. On June 17, 2019, almost 1 year after Steven's death, Mary Katherine went on trial for shooting him. The trial brought attention to a tumultuous relationship between Mary Katherine and Steven. Mary Katherine's attorneys argued that she acted in self-defense, claiming that she was genuinely afraid of Steven due to his history of violence and abuse. To strengthen their case, they presented evidence to the jury that highlighted Steven's controlling, manipulative, and dangerous behavior. During the trial, Mary Katherine took the witness stand in her own defense. In her emotional testimony, Mary Katherine opened up about the constant abuse she suffered at the hands of Steven. She described a pervasive pattern of abuse that spanned multiple forms, including physical, mental, emotional, verbal, and sexual. Mary Katherine testified that Steven would hit her, verbally humiliate her, and subject her to degrading treatment whenever the opportunity presented itself. According to Mary Katherine, Steven subjected her to every type of abuse he could. She shared incidents where Steven would smack her around and verbally abuse her, telling her to do better and be better. The physical and emotional toll of the abuse had left her feeling trapped and fearful for her life. Mary Katherine believed that Steven's actions constantly threatened her well-being and safety. Mary Katherine's defense presented evidence in the form of a text message Steven sent to Mary Katherine in which he wrote, "You're going to get punished when I get home." When her attorneys asked what Steven meant by punishing Mary, Katherine said Steven would smack her around and tell her to do better and be a better girlfriend to him. Breaking down in tears on the witness stand, Mary Katherine said if she tried to defend her, Steven would hit her harder. Her defense showed another text to the court in which Steven told Mary Katherine, "Don't hit me because if you hit me, then I'm just going to hit you back 2 times harder." During her testimony, Mary Katherine claimed that Steven had a red room, which she described as similar to the room depicted in the popular book series, 50 Shades of Grey. In the red room, she alleges that the two engaged in aggressive and sometimes violent intercourse. To support her claim, her defense attorneys presented the court with a text message from Steven to Mary Katherine, in which he wrote, "I miss you too much. I'm coming home and you're about to get it bad. You're going to the red room." Mary Katherine also testified that Steven sexually assaulted her on 2 occasions. One of these incidents occurred after they returned from a vacation to Walt Disney World. According to Mary Katherine, their intercourse was becoming more aggressive, and she expressed her discomfort to Steven, asking him to stop. However, Steven allegedly intensified his efforts instead of heeding her pleas, stating that she had received various gifts at Disney World and now owed him what was rightfully his. He reportedly told her that she was going to give him what he wanted and what he deserved. The defense presented additional evidence in the form of text messages from Steven to support Mary Katherine's claims of abuse. These messages were not only vulgar and threatening, but also demonstrated a pattern of verbal assaults directed towards Mary Katherine. They had over 60 pages of text messages from Steven that showcased his abusive behavior. One particular message sent while Steven was out with a group of friends was particularly disturbing. In the image, Steven was seen holding a large dead fish aloft, accompanied by a caption that read, "This is you, bitch." Another message presented to the court was one from Steven after Mary Katherine cheated on him. Steven wrote he was going to wreck her for wrecking him. Furthermore, the defense alleged that Steven had a drug and alcohol addiction, which contributed to his violent outbursts. During the conversation regarding the night she shot Mary Katherine, she insisted that she was the one who ended her relationship with Steven, rather than the other way around. Mary Katherine claimed that Steven did not take the news well and behaved as if he intended to attack her. Terrified, she said that she resorted to grabbing the gun in self-defense. According to Mary Katherine, the final words she exchanged with Steven before she fired the weapon were, "Get out of my house!" Steven's friends and family did not believe Mary Katherine's allegations that he was a violent, dangerous, abusive man. They knew Steven as a laid-back, friendly, caring person. His mother said she had no idea Steven was sending Mary Katherine disturbing text messages or threatening her violence, and did not condone it. However, Steven's mother claimed she thought Steven only said all of the things he did out of anger. However, during cross-examination, the state confronted Mary Katherine with the fact that she had never reported the alleged abuse Steven had subjected her to. The state also argued that hours before Steven was shot, Mary Katherine was searching violent, sexually explicit images on the internet while she was babysitting. Mary Katherine claimed she was only looking at those sites to get ideas to make Steven happy, hoping it would convince him to stay with her. Additionally, the state told the court that Mary Katherine had altered her story about the night he shot Steven at least 10 times since her initial interview a year before trial. One of the key pieces of evidence presented in court to support the state's theory that Mary Katherine intentionally shot Steven was a text Steven sent her that read, "I know you've pointed a gun at me multiple times already, but last time scared the shit out of me." Furthermore, Steven's friends also took the witness stand to testify about witnessing the abuse Mary Katherine inflicted on him. Their accounts corroborated the state's argument that Mary Katherine had a history of violence towards Steven, not the other way around. After the jury deliberated for 4 hours, they returned with a verdict of not guilty of malice murder, felony murder, as well as the lesser charges of assault and possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony. Mary Katherine was then released from prison. The verdict surprised everyone who knew and loved Steven, as they were shocked by the decision. Members of the jury later admitted that they all actually believed that Mary Katherine purposely shot and killed Steven. However, they recognized that there was not enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt why she shot Steven. This lack of evidence made it difficult to establish whether it was indeed murder or if it was justified as self-defense. Moreover, the jury was unable to reach a consensus on the validity of all the accusations against either Steven or Mary Katherine.